Welcome. We are a mother-daughter podcast about all things surrogacy. Together, we have brought 8 beautiful babies into this world, and we would like to share through education and knowledge about surrogacy with those who want to educate themselves on the topic. This is Stop.Sit.Surrogate. Hey everyone, if you ever thought about becoming a surrogate, I want to share something with you. Stop.Sit.Surrogate is now a matching and referral agency that helps guide you through the very first steps of your journey. We'll walk with you until you're matched and connected with a trusted agency that supports you all the way through. It's such a meaningful process, and knowing you're not alone makes a huge difference. So if you're curious about surrogacy or ready to take that first step, check us out at Stop.Sit.Surrogate.com.
Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Kennedy and Ellen, and we have a very special guest. This is Jason. Can we say your last name or no?
Jason F.
Jason F. Fabulous. And he is we call them intended parents, I call him friend, of the triplets that I was able to carry almost 20 years ago. It's ridiculous. And we've kept in touch, and he has graciously agreed to be on our podcast to kind of give us his perspective, because back then, 20 years ago, 21 years ago, this was kind of cutting edge per se. Like, you didn't do triplets back in, you don't do them even now today. So we were kind of not a one-off, because I knew of another surrogate who was doing it, but definitely.
We were an anomaly. By the way, we've more than kept in touch, because we are friends and family, and I adore you and your family. And so I very much look forward to saying hi today.
Yes, thank you. Well, we're thrilled.
I know. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Before we even start this, how did your kids react to being on here? Because I don't get to hear it. Did they?
They loved it. This was their first podcast. Yeah, they were all excited. They couldn't wait to tell me that they were on a podcast. And then I listened. I don't remember where I was, but I was traveling somewhere. I think it was, did Sebastian do it first?
Yeah, yes. He did.
Yeah. And I was so proud, because I was listening to him, and he was composed, and he was thoughtful and interesting. Awesome. And then Ben did it. And then Maddie was nervous, and she actually she kept sending messages out. Y'all need to be quiet. You need to be quiet. You can't make any noise in the house. I'm doing a podcast, and I'll let you know when you can speak. And then I was walking the dog and listening to hers. It was cute. It was really great. I loved it.
She had such
because I've never really heard, other than when they share, I've never really heard their perspective. So it was fun.
Right. And us neither. Yeah. And she had such a different take on it than the boys. It was
I was really anxious to hear her take, because she grew up in a house of boys.
She did.
Yeah. Kennedy was about, I'm going to say 6 or 7-ish when she met you guys, and when I did the triplet surrogacy. So Kennedy is now 20 years later, like doing her own thing, and she's done 3 surrogacies. It's just so like full circle for me.
Your journey all by itself, Kennedy. I mean, I remember pulling up to your house and meeting you. In fact, I was in videos. And did your mother share with you the video that I sent a few weeks ago?
I was with her when she shared it with me, and she sent it to my family, and everybody was like, why did you let the kid out in the front of the house on a really busy street? What's up with her hair? She looks insane. Why is she wearing those clothes? I was just like,
you are adorable. You are adorable, but I love that you're a mama. And so it makes it so full circle for me to watch you become who you are. It is amazing. And it really does make me recognize the age and the time that has passed. So, life is life. It's just a blink, and here we are.
Seriously, it is a blink. Okay, let's start. So the first biggest question, how did you hear about surrogacy? Like what, because you that wasn't the only option available to you to have children, especially for 2 gay men.
Yeah. So Terry and I were together for 10 years. And in the early part of our relationship, we said, let's have kids one day. But it was more just a fancy of, let's have kids one day, and then sort of let it pass. And then somewhere on the backside of that 10-year period, we started to think about it more seriously. And this is now in the 90s. And, the very idea of having a kid was not unheard of, but certainly, adopting kids in the US was virtually impossible for gay men. And if you were adopting usually somebody else's problem. So it was either a child that had been through a foster system and was later in life, or somebody that was medically challenged, just any number of things. And it wasn't that I wouldn't have felt like that would have been a bad thing for any gay man to do, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And it wasn't what Terry wanted to do.
Yeah.
So we started investigating international adoption, and we looked at countries like, Russia, at the time, Costa Rica, and China. The laws were really crazy. And for the most part, you had no idea what you were getting into. And, there was a lot of debate about whether or not you were even going to come out of the country after having spent a lot of money with any children. So it just sort of was a back and forth between us about how we would do this. And as it turned out, I have to think about this, but I remember it being March. It was probably about 1999. And there was a story on 2020 about an agency that was specifically catering to gay couples. And it had been founded, probably 3 or 4 years before that. And Barbara Walters was doing the story, and it had featured the guy that was sort of the co-founder, or the guy that had come in to help expand it, and his surrogate journey. And we looked at it and said, this is amazing. So I immediately this was Friday night, 2020, made a phone call on Monday, figured out that this might be something to do. And Terry and I made a trip to Los Angeles to go meet with them. And that was the start of the journey.
Oh my gosh, that's so crazy.
So what's the thing of adoption? And I probably asked you guys about that before, but I just 20 some odd years, I'm forgetting all of it. So
yeah,
that was on the radar. And then it just was a mishap that you saw it on a television show.
The great good fortune of Barbara Walters was, in fact, it's funny. I was at the time working for Home Depot, and at some point along the way, I ended up doing segments on The View, her morning show. And I met Barbara and I told her the story. It was one of those full circle moments. And I told her exactly that, and she really could have cared less, but it was, she said, "Oh, that's cute. That's very lovely." And then she kind of went on her way, but I at least got out what I wanted to say. So I had my full circle moment.
For sure.
That's amazing.
Oh my gosh.
See?
That's really funny.
So that kind of answered the why surrogacy part too, I think. Why you ended up doing surrogacy, you wanted children. And you didn't have uteruses, so there was no other way, or there was another way, but you chose this one because was it important, Jason, biological?
It became important eventually because it was possible. It hadn't been any consideration up to that point, but once we knew that it could be, we said, well, this would be great because this is the ideal. I sort of have lived my life, and, Terry was along for the journey on this one too, but I've lived my life that nothing should be impossible. If you can dream big, you can go have it, make it happen, whatever. It doesn't mean it's going to happen exactly the way you planned, and life never does, but, it's that sort of positive outlook, and sometimes it gets me in trouble, but for the most part, it has been the motivating factor. And for me, the very idea that we could have kids and that we could make the kids biologically ours became a reality. And at that point, now there was nothing that was going to stop us.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, that's great.
You never anticipated the multiples, right?
No, I remember the joke about, when we started researching, and remember, there really wasn't at this point, there wasn't much searching you did online, and it was a little bit harder to figure things out. But, if you asked around or talked to fertility experts, maybe, if you were going to do an IVF program, you would end up with twins. It was sort of common, right, or certainly more common, because inevitably when you're implanting an embryo, at least back at that time, you might implant two. And so there was a good chance for might have been like closer to 30-40% if they were implanting two embryos that you could end up with twins, but no guarantees. And so we said, wouldn't that be funny? But never really thought about it more than that.
Oh my gosh.
That's funny. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jason, can I ask you, so were you guys the first of your friends to get involved in surrogacy?
Yeah, we never really had a big a group of gay friends. So it just, for whatever the reasons were, I think our friends came primarily from where we worked or from family or whatever it happened to be. And so, back then, again, the idea that any gay men would you'd see more often lesbians because they could have their own children. And so I knew some people that had, but any of my gay friends that were talking about kids, and remember, we're, in our middle, late 20s at that time, would have been laughing while they were saying it. It would have never been in their consideration set. So, we were definitely at the vanguard of wanting to have children, I think, in that time.
Oh my gosh. That's so
okay.
Cool.
So we know how you found the agency because you saw them on 2020, you called them up. So once were you an immediate, okay, this agency is catering to gay and lesbian couples. Yes, we're on board. We're signing up. Did you have to give it a thought? Did you have to kind of sit back and sleep on it?
Well, we didn't really understand how the whole thing works. So we went to meet with them. And when we came into it, there was some information that we had gotten. I think they mailed some information to us. And so there was this notion of, I don't remember at the time what they called it, but sort of gestational surrogacy and then another surrogacy. And basically the original way we were coming into it was that the surrogate would be the egg donor. Didn't think otherwise, didn't know otherwise, or there were two options and maybe that was the logical option. Okay. And we sat down and they never brought that up. And at the very end of the meeting, brought up the fact that there would be a surrogate who'd also be the egg donor. And at the end of the meeting, I sort of said, why are we not talking about this other option? And they said, because no one does that. Because the real way that this works is you choose an egg donor, you create a match that's right for you in that part of the process, and then you match with somebody who will actually carry the pregnancy for you. And, it was sort of an epiphany for me because up to that point, we had just assumed, this is relatively new. So, now we know what we know. But at the time, and they said, very few surrogates ever want to use their own eggs. In fact, the only time it really ever happens is when a couple finds a friend and the friend's willing to get pregnant for them. That's the effect of it. But for an agency, the much more professional and appropriate way to do it is to separate the two. So that was new. It's a big piece of information. And then they handed us the price sheet.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And they said, the price of a surrogacy could be anywhere from, and I don't really, I know what we ended up spending, but I remember at the time, it was something like between $80,000 and maybe $130,000. And we spent, probably $130,000. I think it was $127,000. So, at the time going into it, that was not even beginning to be in our consideration. I never even thought about that. So we walked out of there with a lot of information and kind of recognized, somehow this seems to be right. We got to figure this out. Let's do it. And I never thought about how it was all going to work. I just said, of course, this is going to be the way we have children.
Yeah.
Oh, crazy.
And to touch on that, the two different types of surrogacy, I would have never dreamed of, not that I wouldn't have done it, but I never would have dreamed of using my own eggs. Number one, I was adopted. And I think everybody in our little surrogate world knows that. And that was just a very hard little piece missing for me. And second, to have all these little people, my genes are really, really strong. If you look at my children and my grandchildren, right? So to have all these other little people running around that might look like me, it just didn't gel well with me. And I needed to separate the two. I needed it to be, my uterus was going to be like the oven or the house. I was going to babysit any child or children that were in there for 9 months, and I was going to give them to their parents that they were biologically related to.
I understood that. I think the very first question any intended parents ask is, why would somebody do this? And of course, during our meeting, we asked that question. How do you know that they're going to give the baby? Again, back then, if you had ever, seeing this on 2020 was the only experience we had, and there wasn't a lot of research on it. And then there was the whole worry about, well, what if, something happens? And you just go down the list of things. And this agency that was relatively new at the time was saying, oh, no, that doesn't happen. And they were telling us, surrogates don't do this for the money. They do. Egg donors do. Surrogates really do this because they want to give back. They enjoy being pregnant. They like the process. Yeah. They want to be helpful. They went through this whole list and we kind of said, okay, we'll be a little suspicious of that, but let's go to it. And then that was the start.
Crazy. See, I don't even know all that I was even working with you guys. I was like, oh no. All right. What else we got? And so what? Yeah. Okay. So what were you looking for in an agency? I mean, I don't know why you went to Growing Generations. I understand that, but what were you looking for?
I can't say that we were looking for anything in particular, except for, maybe just the confidence of believing that the agency would be able to effectively be full service, because this is a complicated process. Now that you understand it, as an intended parent, you realize there's going to be three parties in it: the intended parent, the surrogate, the egg donor, and really a fourth party who's the facilitator. And so, and I'm a business guy, and in any business conversation, you have contracts and you have relationships. And then, if you ever have to turn to the contract in a business relationship, you pretty much know this thing is not going to go well, because contracts are there for when things don't go well, right? So, it's a little nerve-wracking to think you're going to actually turn making a baby into a business. But we wanted somebody who understood the process and understood us, and obviously an agency that specialized in specifically in gay surrogacy made sense. We did poke around a little bit and looked at other. We said, well, let's just make sure, like shopping for a car, let's not just look at one place.
Right.
So we ended up settling, and maybe it was just serendipity because everything just sort of worked out from that point forward.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And I chose them. I think we said this in my podcast when I did my story, because I needed to work with a gay couple. When I looked at doing surrogacy, you're right, all those factors. I wanted to give back. I didn't mind being pregnant. I actually kind of enjoyed it. And pregnancies were easy. So I was like, you know what? Who better to help than somebody with no uterus? That's kind of where I went with this. And that's why I chose surrogacy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's why I did it.
I heard that on your podcast, and I actually, for the same reasons at the time that I was asking, why would anybody want to work with a gay couple? Why would anybody want to work, frankly, as the oven? Why would anybody want to do this? Once you meet the person, and once we met you, of course, the whole thing fast forwards into, well, of course I understand all of this. How could I not? But it was up to that point that I would say, every question you could ever come up with. And I think even to this day, I imagine that intended parents go into the surrogacy process saying, does all of this really work all the time? And sometimes it does. And I imagine there are a lot of things that don't work.
Yeah. True. We've done numerous podcasts in which things have not worked. Yes. And it's interesting because it's enlightening and it helps future surrogates understand what to look for, what to put in your contracts. And that's really why we kind of started this whole
future IPs as well. Because, the ultimate goal, I remember being little. I've said this several times. I remember being little, and the one surrogacy I remember the most that she did was you guys. And I was like, I want a Jason and Terry. I want this. I want this so bad. I love them so much. And I was really, really close to getting that with my first journey and halfway with my second, not at all with my third. But you guys were like the goal. I was like, this is what a surrogacy should be. This is like the greatest, best outcome ever.
Okay. When we started, we Terry and I said, we want to make sure that whoever we find, we fit with, because there were a series of application questions. And so we wanted to be, it's probably our nature to be a little over the top, but we wanted to be a little over the top in terms of how the application read, because we were told that the process for a surrogate in California, and we were very specific because at that time, there was a proven track history in the judicial process of all places in Orange County, that the friendly judge who we all sat in front of, Ellen, you'll remember, was the guy that was actually granting dual paternity. And so we were certain that California had to be the place where we were going to get our surrogate, and there were none. The waiting process for surrogates in California, because everybody wanted one, was really long. I want to say that when we started the process, March, April of 99, and we actually ended up meeting you, at the end of 2000, I guess, right? Sometime in there.
Yeah.
So it was a long, and they warned us. And so we said, well, let's make a great application. And let's also be the kind of intended parents that somebody wants to work with. Let's just fall over ourselves to be as generous, as kind as we can, because they're going to do something that is the greatest gift that we could ever imagine. And let's just make sure this is a great product. We just set our minds to that. And that was the way we oriented for the whole thing.
And you did very well with your profile, because you jumped off the page, your page. And it was like, whoa, because I had already done a surrogacy, and I was like, that just didn't go real well. I need to be more involved in picking out who I'm going to be working with and who I'm going to be helping. And so I decided, I need you to send me like 3 or 4. I want to look. If I'm not happy, I'm sending them back, and you're going to send me some more. At this point, I didn't know that California surrogates were that much in demand, because that was not relayed from the agency. It was like, oh yeah, you can be matched pretty quick, no problem. So when the first 3 I got, you guys were on the bottom. I don't know how that happened, but I just read through one. I'm like, yeah, no. Number 2, no. Number 3, I'm like, first page, like first words. I'm like, oh, forgot. I ran into Mike, and I'm like, this is them. This is them. He goes, well, what about him? I go, I don't know. Just look at him. And he's like, okay, read it, Ellen. And I'm like, no, So we did. We read it, and I read it and read it over and over, trying to pick out things like, what's making them not likable? There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing in there that I could pick out. So that's where I was with it. And I'm like, I hope they like me. Like, it was like, people are getting freaked out. Like, I hope they like me. Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's where I was with it. Like, wow. Okay. So yeah, it was a long process for you.
Wait, you said Station, you said that you guys sat in front of a judge. Why'd you guys sit in front of a judge?
At the very end of the process, once the kids were born, we went to a judge in Orange County. It was
Pre-birth judgment.
yeah, it was a birth judgment to be able to have the birth certificate, because California was very favorable, and this judge in particular was very favorable to granting dual paternity, so that the mother part of the birth certificate could be struck and it would say parent and parent.
Oh, okay.
We did that prior to them being born. I was very pregnant when that happened. I'm very pregnant.
Oh, that's right. That's when it was. Yeah. I don't remember any of this.
Take the documents to the hospital, and when they were asking for birth certificates, which I was not involved in, then they just got all the information, and they had the pre-birth judgment, and boom. Yeah.
You remember that because we have a picture standing behind the bench, and you were big. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's because that's different now. I've never sat in front of a judge. I do it all documents.
I'm sure. Yeah. Back then it was a very nerve-wracking process too, because, at the time, the guy that represented us was actually the co-founder of the company. And he was there, and he said, look, this judge is great. He loves all of our clients. We all, he drove in from LA, like everybody comes here. But he said, I have to warn you, he doesn't have to do it. And it doesn't have to happen. And so, there's this one little aching suspicion that we're going to be the family that walks in. But he was lovely. And I remember the process, and it was just like, we walked out and just smiling ear to ear because we could now consummate the process.
Yeah. And it wasn't told to me, because Mike had to be there as well, because it was like, I was carrying. So, and I don't want to say I had to relinquish my birthrights of these children, but I kind of did, like
parental rights. Yeah, you and Mike. It was, and that actually was the moment, by the time that, of course, we're in this courtroom, we loved you guys, and there was not even a question. I mean, Kennedy, for as adorable as you were a handful, I remember. And so, your mom had 3 kids, and, it was just nonstop. And I'm thinking, there is no chance in hell she wants these 3 anyway, like immediately. So yeah, and Mike, so all of you. Yeah. So it was able. In that moment, it was Mike and Ellen basically saying, here, these aren't our children. And I remember at that point too, saying, we've got to make sure that the hospital doesn't recognize this as a reason, because again, this is now 2002, still early days. Yeah. And that hospital was incredible from start to end, but we wanted to make absolutely certain that both of your parents, Kennedy, could be treated as if they were parents in terms of the way the birth process went, and rights in the hospital and visitation, all those other things, because we didn't want the paperwork to become the guiding factor for having them feel alienated in the process.
And Ethan, do you want any more kids? I'll be your surrogate.
I do not. Let me just be very clear. Yeah, that's the end of the process right there.
Oh my God. So I'm probably jumping out of turn, which I always do, but none of us expected multiples. I remember the day we went in for the transfer, we were sitting there, and here comes Dr. walks in. He tells you your grade level of your eggs. They weren't that great. They weren't that great. And everybody's like, well, how many are we putting in? And I don't know how we came to 4, but I think it's because they were the best eggs. And we just said, let's just do it. We kind of looked at each other, and I'm like, well, whatever y'all want. And
there's a story to that. Terry and I met with Sahakian, and he sat down at his desk, and he was turned a piece of paper around and was writing backwards, and he was going through the chances. It was a little bit like the Las Vegas, the betting, what do you call that? The sort of the chances of what's going to happen. The odds, of course. Yeah, the odds. Yeah. And so he was sort of saying, if we implant one, he was being funny, but he was really serious about it. And he was damn good, but he said, I'm really good. If we put one in, you're going to get a kid. Barring something that happens. And then there's this insurance policy that you do so that you can get 3 tries. But basically he said, you'll get a kid. So if we put in 2, there is, and I don't remember what the percentage was, but if you put in 2, there's a percentage and you can get twins. But if you put in 3, there is a 13% chance you could end up with triplets, and then 4 and so forth.
Okay.
And I just remembered at the time, and I you know what, Ellen, I don't actually remember how we collectively decided. I just do remember that contractually we had said we were all good with twins. Like twins would be the most we really wanted. Anything beyond that we would reduce. Said it so happenstance, we just kind of did it.
Yep.
Well, anyway, so we ended up saying, for whatever probably because of the quality, because I remember where I was when his office called and told us about the quality. We were driving around Burbank, And I remember getting the phone call and then thinking, oh no, this isn't great because the quality. But in any event, so we ended up putting in 4. And nowadays I've heard they will not, fertility doctors, absolutely under any circumstances, will not put more in than the intended number of kids, maybe 2 at max, because the high risk. And I remember how much I freaked out when we ended up getting triplets.
He freaked? He did?
Yeah, he freaked. He was, and I didn't know this, but I talked to other fertility doctors because we were doing research when that all happened. Yeah. And that was definitely, because they like their success odds. They want to be able to show that they can get people pregnant. And so, like any athlete, they don't want to play a bad game. And if you put in, at that time, they were telling us if you put in 3, there's a really high chance you're going to end up with all these horrible diseases and genetic defects. And you're like, what the hell? I mean, you remember how tragic that was. But up to that point, we said, oh yeah, put in 4. Like, more is better.
Yeah. Because the quality was not, they don't even rate them like that anymore now, but the quality, and I remember being in a gown and we were just all in the room and he's like, all right, here's the deal. And we all just kind of looked at each other and we're like, well, let's just get the most out of the odds and let's go for it. Yeah. None of us thinking 3 of those heartbeats would be showing up on an ultrasound 6 weeks later. None of us.
None.
Wow. None.
So you guys were pretty comfortable in the fact that like it was going to be twins.
More than likely, right?
Yeah, it was like, it was sort of, it'd be good because I don't want to have to do this again. But, it was, and really that was kind of our attitude is like, that'd be nice. But we didn't go, we were just happy to get 1 kid. That all the way through. That's what we talked about. We kept referring to having a child, not children.
Right. I remember the agency, the owner of the agency was there having a procedure done that the same day that we found out it was multiples. And she wanted me to come by her room when we knew. And once we collected ourselves, I walked in, I opened her door and I said, it's 3. And her mouth just dropped. She's like, what? And I went, okay, we'll be talking. And, just shut the door and walked away. Because we were their second set of triplets. They had just had triplets born literally Christmas Day the year before. So I think it was a whole year. No, wasn't it a couple of months before we actually transferred? Is when those
might have been. I don't remember. That's the stuff I don't remember. I do remember that day though when we all walked in and got that ultrasound.
Well, I want to know. She like jumped ahead. I want to know. So because you guys were there, it was so nice that you guys were there when she had her transfer.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You want to see the video of the moment we found out, Kennedy?
You have a video?
I do.
Oh my God! Yes.
I do.
Jason, you have a video?
I do have a video of it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh my God, shut up.
How come I don't know this?
Of that exact moment. You want to see?
Yes.
You sure?
To the audience, we're looking at the video. Did I freak?
It's like when it is turn. Okay. Yeah, what, 6 years now? 2 days. Half the 2 days, and some of the brown people. Triplets!
What?
Sorry.
How many do you put in?
4.
Her
Oh, we're not on it. You guys it?
Yeah.
Did herpes or no?
I told you so.
No, you did.
You're watching a video of us finding out it's triplets.
What is reduction an option?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so don't freak out.
We're not.
Okay, there's a heartbeat in this one.
See, Jen?
After say there's a heartbeat.
It's very top beat back and forth.
See it?
My mouth was like wide open.
Oh.
See it, Jen?
Yeah.
There's a heartbeat in the See it? Both of them are beating.
Oh, I'm right there now. Okay, that's very good. Okay, we got one. You got it, Jason?
So these look very good players. Yeah, you are the golden surrogates.
Excuse me?
Oh, damn, more than golden platinum or something.
I guess that explains the tiredness and the dizziness.
Dead silence, everyone, but we're just watching a video
And the
of
fucking
actual
Yes.
mental.
God.
And it goes on from there, but it is something else, isn't it?
Oh my God.
my
I
gosh.
had no idea you were videotaping. 20 some odd years, I had no idea you videotaped that.
Oh my gosh.
What was the laughter when I said, excuse me or something, and everybody just broke out in laughter? I didn't even know what was happening. What was happening? Oh my God.
I missed that part, but the whole thing was just everybody was stunned. I mean, I think you had said at some point there you were whispering, Jesus Christ. You had been dizzy, and you were like, whatever. I mean, we saw the pregnancy test, and we all knew that there was clearly something going on, right?
Right. We thought 2. Yeah, we never imagined 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that was the moment, and then it goes on from there, and it's pretty funny because after that, he said, "Is reduction option?" You immediately like, yes, and it was sort of, and then he kind of went on to say, "These are good. These are good.
Yeah.
These were good. Good pregnancy."
that is crazy.
That is crazy. I never knew you had that. Thank you for sharing. You're just full of little nuggets, aren't you?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm like going to be on like cloud 9 with this. Like that was so fun.
So obviously shock, and then you guys resorted to like, can we do this? Can we not? I know there was a point there where we talked a little bit about maybe doing something, and then we ended up just carrying all 3. We just carried all 3.
Yeah, this was a really, I think that was probably, it's very funny how there are chunks of time that I just don't have anymore. And funny enough, though, I've not gone to look at it. So maybe at some point I'll share them all with you so you can just see the whole thing. But everything was videoed, even our conversations. I've never gone to look at them. I've never watched them. But I think that we had a couple tough times, and I don't remember about exactly what. Yeah. But I do think this was one of the tougher times because we were all struggling. And what I think in the end we determined was, while we were all shocked and while 3 was never part of our calculus,
right,
along the way, we all sort of were doing the group think thing of, okay, we're going to reduce. Yeah. I'm not sure you're such a high potential human being and a type A personality, as am I. And so, I think it's somewhere along the way, you and probably Mike talked about it and said, well, we could do triplets. I don't know that you did, but I feel like you did, because in the end, we came to the conclusion that we all wanted triplets, but we had an event where you went to go get that little stick up again, that ultrasound stick, to go figure out which one was going to be reduced. And we know which one it was going to be, right, which I've never really said out loud. But anyway, so we were going to do the reduction, but that wand, you had a little pinch in the way that the sac pinched the uterus or something. Yep. And he kind of poked it the wrong way. And it was not a life-threatening situation, but you started bleeding right after you left, and you ran back to Orange County, went to the hospital. And I remember you calling us, and we all together collectively, when everything was okay, took it as a sign of don't screw with this pregnancy. And there it was. Triplets were decided.
And what was a little hematoma behind one of the egg sacs. That's what it was. And it's very, very common. Even to this day, it's very, very common. Yeah. But I did not know that.
Scary for you, for us, everybody.
Super scary. Yeah.
Can I ask you, Jason, do you think, because obviously a triplet pregnancy is high risk. Yes. Like every doctor, I'm sure, had said that at the time. But do you think that there was also pressure from the agency? Just hearing from my mom, like, because I know how she felt in that moment with the agency. Like, were you guys getting that same conversation with them?
I don't remember. There were little things like, it's going to cost more. I really don't remember. Yeah. This was so overwhelming, Kennedy, because, you plan for one.
Totally.
You could dream and hope, but don't get too worked up over the fact that you could have twins.
Right.
If you ever wonder, have you ever hit the lottery in your life, and you didn't win money, but you won your kids? In that moment, it's like, I don't ever need to win the lottery, because that was the moment. That was the lottery. But, when you're being told on one hand, reduction, you've got to do reduction. By the way, that's turned into another interesting thing, because while I am all pro-choice, there is no question in my mind about being pro-choice. Yeah. When faced with this, and I've told this story to a lot of people, when faced with the personal decision to reduce, effectively to abort part of that pregnancy, I couldn't do it. And in light of where we were then, I couldn't do it today. So while I'm perfectly prepared and fully would go out of my way to support any woman in her choice, it was impossible for me when we ultimately said we weren't going to do it to ever consider, because you now know what that was.
Right. Yeah. Right. No, absolutely. Yeah. No, of course.
Yeah. That was probably just our biggest, our hardest thing to issue to deal with. It was that. And
I think it was because everything else was like, we couldn't wait to fly out and see you and the family. And when we hung out, we always had fun, and we always felt like, it was like, it was so great. And that I don't remember, I genuinely, Ellen, I know there was some stuff.
No, I totally know. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah.
Because I have pockets where I don't remember either. I just remember when I got the call from you guys, I was in the hospital. I asked them to do an ultrasound again, just to make sure we had heartbeats before I talked to you guys. And when Terry, I remember in his Southern twang just went, "We're looking at it as a sign, Ellen." And I'm like, "A good one?" And you're all like, "Yeah, can you carry all three?" I'm like, "Absolutely." And the pressure that was on my shoulders and the weight on my, just everything was released. And I'm like, "Oh, we got this. They are going to be born. They're going to be born healthy. We got it." Yeah.
I loved, because back in December, you had lost your job, which I also took as a sign. I mean, it was bad, but I think you even were like, you know what? This is a sign. This is a sign. This is going to be my job. And I was so happy. It was like when you go back now, and of course, 20 years of hindsight, but when you go back and you look at, you weren't working, your full-time job effectively was to be mom to your kids and carry these kids and to eat as much and drink as much as you could. And that was a full time. I remember you calling us, telling us, "I've tried to eat as many milkshakes and as many gallons of ice cream and water as I can." I'm telling you, Jason, 6,000 calories a day sounds like a dream until you have to do it every day. It is not.
It is not. Oh my God. It was hard. It was hard.
What was so amazing is that you were every bit of the kind of personality that we had dreamed of, because, you looked at this as not only a challenge, but as your personal measure of success. You were going to do everything you could. And you kept saying, we're going to because I think the doctor said the most they would ever let you carry these 3 kids was 36 weeks under all circumstances.
Right.
We should be prepared from 32 forward, and they would call it at any time after 32. But if you got to 32, you were good.
Yeah.
But 36 was the most, and you were going to do everything you could. I mean, I think right up to driving your car to get that last appointment when he said you're crowning or whatever you were doing. And that's
dilating. Yeah.
Dilating. Yeah.
Yeah. You're cute. Dilating. Yeah. And we had no idea. I didn't feel contractions, nothing.
Because you were like going about you were
driving the car, could barely fit behind the wheel. I was like, all right, let's just do this.
The fact that you could fit behind a wheel is impressive alone.
We always said that too. We were like, this woman does not stop. She is like a woman. I mean, just like, let's go.
It was crazy. And I remember going in for that appointment. It was going to be a routine check. Here we go. And here come all the doctors. "Hey, listen, you're starting to dilate." And I'm like, "You better stop it, because the minute I get to 4, we're done. And I know they're not coming naturally. You got to take them see." And they're like, "Yeah, okay." So they went out to the hall, and I remember it distinctively. It's crazy what you remember. They were arguing. Dr. Porto was the doctor, my high-risk doc, OB, and he was arguing with his, I think she was a PA, physician's assistant, and she desperately wanted me to go to the hospital and get the steroids for their lungs, because at this point, I'm thinking we're around 31, roughly around 31 weeks, and she's like, "No, let's just send her and get the steroids. What's it going to hurt? Blah, blah, blah." And he's like, no, she's done great. She's done fine. She'll be all right. She won. We went, steroids in, and then they check again. Now we're 3 centimeters. They're like, "You're staying until they're born." I'm like, what? And my whole life just flashed in front of my eyes. I'm like, what am I going to do with my kids? Oh my God. We hadn't eaten all day. I'm like, "Can I have some food, please?" They're like, "Yeah, no, you're going to be hooked up to IVs." And I remember, flash forward, after you got there, Terry was instrumental in getting me my Jell-O. "Please, Terry, get me some Jell-O, please. Anything. I haven't eaten in like almost 2 days." And he charmed those little nurses, and they brought tons of Jell-O.
No, you were. I just remembered though how, I mean, it was, everything was an achievement, was a goal. We've gained this much weight, we've gained this. You'd call and you'd tell us that, and it was just like, you were just incessant about this has got to happen, and this has got to happen, and meantime you're raising kids, and you're doing all this stuff, and we were just sitting there marveling at it. I mean, it was insane. Yeah.
So then that leads me to the next question. What were you looking for in a surrogate? But I'll let Kennedy ask her question, because I see she wants to.
But no, I just wanted to know what, because I don't think you guys were there for the gender appointment, but how, were you just over the moon that it was 2 boys and a girl, or were you rooting for 2 girls or all the same?
No, I know we want, at the point that we started having that conversation about figuring out what we thought was, who cared? We were having 3 kids.
Sure.
The fact that we got two and one, it was bound to happen one way or the other, and it was perfect. And now I can't imagine it any other way. But I don't remember, but I'm certain that there's a video that we could go back and look for and find, because that would have been a call we would have videoed. So
Oh my
Oh,
God.
I love that you documented this.
No, everything. I mean, every part of this process was let me tell you, every part of this process was documented.
From 20 years ago. That
Yeah.
would be an awesome movie.
Yeah. I always said one day I'll share this with the kids, and I just don't know when that's going to happen. But, one day.
They
That's
did
so
say that you
cool.
shared their egg donor, just randomly sent them the picture.
Maddie called me. She was with her boyfriend in Colorado this past winter, and she called me one night and she said, Matt, it's been an interesting thing, because if you step back, the kids have always from day one known their story. We've told them, but they never really heard it. I don't think, even to this day, if you really push the three of them to tell you the story, they can do it, but it's pretty superficial. They never cared. And then Maddie called one night. I'm pretty certain my aunt, who would love to do this, and my mother, who were together, would also love to do this. Probably with Maddie asking or saying something, said, you should ask your dad. I'm pretty sure that's how this went down, because while they're all sitting around, Maddie sends me a note and says, who is our egg donor? And I've been waiting for this question now for 20 years. Like I had it in my mind. It wasn't like I was holding out on it. It wasn't that I was actually not going to ever tell them. I just said, I'm going to wait for them to ask. It was just a thing I said, and I never thought of it again.
Yeah.
And I've kept a little folder on my computer of the pictures of the egg donor. And she called me that night, and I thought, all right, here it is. And I sent it to her, and I said, there it is. And of course, the cackling in the background between the aunts and the grandmother were there, but and then I felt really bad because her brothers hadn't seen it. So then I messaged it to all of them, and they had no idea where the hell this was coming from. So they thought it was the most random thing in the world, that I would just drop it on them one night. So it wasn't the way I had it planned, but what the hell? She asked, and I said I was going to give it to her.
Wow. Because that's what the boys said when we interviewed them. They're like, we just got this picture one night. We had no idea. And then Maddie cleared it up and said, yeah, I asked. Like,
I'm known for surprises. That's definitely something. So they don't ever really think things are out of context when I drop things on them. But that wasn't one that I intended to do. But I felt bad because I figured she would forward it on to them, and they wouldn't have the context for it.
Yeah.
Aww.
But your genes are insanely strong.
Insanely.
Your kids look just like you.
Yeah, we call it the Jeff gene. My brother has very strong. You can see it for generations through the ancestry that everybody sort of looks like Jeff, but I do too. So
Is that who Maddie was saying Ben looks like?
Yeah.
Okay.
But Ben has always sort of looked like a version of me.
Yes.
Sebastian looks like my mother.
Yes.
And then Maddie is a hybrid of
is.
sort of everybody.
Totally.
Yeah.
Oh my
Amazing. So when you had a check on me, we've already talked about, and I don't want this to be like, oh my God, Ellen's so wonderful. Well, we already know I am. It's fine. But Kennedy's snapping for me. I don't want that to be what this is, but I'm sure you had a list of, hey, we need our surrogate to be this, this, and this. But on the flip side of that, you had to wait so long to even possibly get one. Were you willing to maybe kind of secede on some of your wants in a surrogate in order to get one? Or were you dead set? We have to have this, this, and this.
I have it in my head that, and this can't possibly be true, but maybe it is, but this is what I've made up in my head, that you were the only one that we were ever presented with, and you were the right one. And it was because you ticked the boxes. You had 3 kids of the right ages. In our minds, it was like, well, with a teenager, a preteen, and basically a youngin', there was no chance that you were going to have any interest in keeping them. Remember, we don't know you at this point, right? You're not going to keep this baby. And then also, just your whole situation where you lived. I knew it because it was actually right down the street from where our West Coast corporate offices were at the time. All these things were just ticking. And then, we figured, okay. And that you had done a surrogacy before. So you knew what to expect. So you would kind of be our guide or mentor in the process. So there were boxes we didn't know to tick. Same thing with the egg donor too. We had boxes for the egg donor and didn't know what they were until we were sitting down, because you don't really, until you're in the situation, you don't know what to expect or what to ask for.
Right. So, so obviously I hit your tips. Yeah. And so it was important to you, just one of them, to have someone who had done it before, a surrogate proven. No,
yes. The agency said we will definitely have somebody who has their own child or children. So that sort of eased again, we're
but surrogate
2001.
Like like already did a surrogacy.
That was a big part because
That was a big
because
part.
for the first, they don't know what to expect, in which case we're all sort of in this boat together. And then if things don't go exactly well, we're all going to be experiencing this, and that could be really stressful. I think that might have been the number one thing, at least on the surrogacy side, that we were worried about. And then on the donor side, it was a different set of issues.
Okay, that makes sense. You got something, Kim?
No, I'm
Okay.
just so fascinated.
She's like amazed. Yeah.
It's just so fun.
We already figured out how much.
And I'm just going to chime in here.
Yeah.
Your children speak better than any adult I know besides you. Like, and they're younger than me. Like, they are so well presented. Like, you and Terry raised the most, like, you guys need to, like, I need a parenting 101 session. Like, they're just great.
No, Jason, come on. They are. Not even 20 years old. Yeah.
They're poised. There's ups and downs of, how their life has gone. I mean, certainly Terry and I split up after 20 years. That wasn't the best, and then we moved a lot. And so it made it harder for the kids because they had to adjust multiple times, multiple schools, multiple sets of friends. But you know what? I think their resiliency in being able to adjust wherever they land, and now we see it in college, they're going into their sophomore year of college, is pretty remarkable. And so it's taught them to understand where they fit in any group of people, and it's allowed them to feel confident in a lot of ways that they wouldn't have otherwise, I think, or maybe not as quickly or as well. And we're really lucky that these kids have such good values. And you do what you can do as a parent. At this point, they're 20 years old this week, and I can't say that there's anything else I can do except for just be a support structure for them.
Right. This is airing on their birthday, so happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Circle. Christ almighty, how did we do that?
Happy birthday.
Jeez.
We got you a podcast. There you go.
Right.
Happy birthday.
So two questions, and they'll probably just go back to back. But once you had them, because we heard some things from Terry on how his perspective was. So once you had the triplets, and I know they had a bit of a stay in the NICU, and they went down to the step down, and they did well. Kennedy, what do you want to say?
We're like skipping like such a fun part of getting the phone call of like, hi, you're having babies.
Oh, on how you got out here. Oh yeah. Like, right.
Because that's a story.
That is a story. How this all went down. Right. So
that
I'm in the
was,
hospital. Yep. And
Mike called. I'm at work. So first of all, we knew that you were in the hospital. And so Terry and I were talking like, all right, I don't remember. I just remember thinking we would, we were going to plan to come out. I don't remember what day of the week, but let's say that it was on Monday. What day did we deliver? Wednesday?
I think it was a Wednesday. I do.
So it was Monday, maybe, that you were in the hospital, that day. And we said, okay, we'll go out Thursday or Friday, because the thinking was we go out towards the end of the week. So of course, I'm just trying to schedule things to work out. Yeah. Anyway, Mike calls and says, okay, just got to give you an update. And this would have been it was probably about, 9:30 or 10 in the morning, my time. So it was really early your time.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, we don't think she's going to be able to hold on. And this would have been Wednesday morning.
Yes.
We don't think she's going to be able to hold on. You should get out here. Because I think we were planning to come either Thursday or Friday.
Right.
Like, what? Like now? He's like, yeah. I honestly think, Jason, that by this afternoon, if she hasn't had it by tonight, she's probably going to have babies. So I think you should do it. What do you think? I mean, you could come tomorrow, but maybe, I know you want to be here. This is what he said.
Yeah. Poor guy.
Hang up. I called Terry, like, pack the effing suitcases now. Get somebody to come and watch the dog. We're leaving now. He's like, what?
Wow. Yeah.
So I drive over sidewalks, cars, whatever, run every red light. I'm flying home from the office. I literally throw stuff in a suitcase, nothing that we needed, everything that we never planned for, run to the airport. This is, after 9/11, where you can't take anything through anymore. We are forcing a giant suitcase through the security machine, telling everybody,
oh my God.
Running through the airport, screaming to everybody, like out of breath, to get on the only flight into Orange County that we can get on from Atlanta. And we literally get on the plane, and they take the suitcase and put it underneath. And we tell them, we're having a baby. And they're like, what? And they're looking for the mother.
Right.
Yeah. And so I tried to explain it. We sit down, and the flight gets level, and they come and bring us a bottle of champagne and say, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. Aww. Meantime, I called my brother on the way to the airport and said to him, you have to get to UCI Medical Center now. And he didn't even care, just hung up. flew to UCI, had a cop tail him for several miles, pulled him over, got an escort,
Oh my
and made
God.
it.
Yes.
Made it along with your mom.
Yes.
Ellen was there too, right? Like you.
Yes.
And so I'm preparing a little gift for the kids. I'm doing photo albums of thousands of pictures. Finally, they're all. Yeah, and I just saw the pictures of the minutes they were born. I haven't seen them in years.
Oh,
Yeah.
so cute.
So did your brother take those pictures?
Yeah.
Wow.
He was taking them, and this is when there were like crappy cameras back then. Yeah.
And I remember because my mom was like, if he's going in, I'm going in. And I'm thinking,
That's right.
oh God, don't stop her. Don't stop her.
No, that was it.
Right. She was like, well, heck, I've been here the whole pregnancy. Like I can just see her. Yeah. But she didn't go in the room, but she definitely got to go to the window and look, I think is what she said.
No, it was there. Yeah. And so Jeff was there.
God, Jason.
Oh my God.
Jeff got in, and then he was there. And then a few minutes later, we get there. And we're like, we asked somebody in the parking lot, take a picture because it's the only time we're ever gonna be there. And then, we immediately, I don't know, somewhere in here. Actually, we the first thing we did is we came to find you.
You did. It was
We
amazing.
did.
You did.
And we walked in, and this was you.
Oh, great hair, Mom.
Stoned,
Great hair.
Everyone out there in Podland, I look a little stoned.
Yeah.
God.
Oh
Yeah.
God. Oh God. That's
And so that was it. That was it.
Oh
But
my God.
I remember landing. We landed at Orange County, and my brother was there waiting for us as we came down the escalator. And we're panicked because back in the day there was no Wi-Fi. So we said, "Is everything okay?" He's like, "Everything's fine. They're incredible. Don't worry." And he flew to the airport. I mean, the hospital, and that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. Y'all
So
came to my room
sweet.
first. I was just, I don't know if
Oh
I
my
was
God.
still just on drugs. I don't know what it was, but I was like, what the hell in my head are they doing here? Hey, we want to check on you, make sure you're okay.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I go see your babies. Like,
Yeah. No, your mom was there. Everybody was there.
There's
Everybody-
you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
My mom.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. She was there.
You're gonna make me cry.
Everybody was there. Yeah.
Right. That was awesome. Yeah.
It was a full
Oh my
production. Yeah.
Yeah. That was a crazy day. Crazy day.
Yeah.
And so and I know we've done it in other updates, but they were born relatively healthy.
They were very healthy. There was nothing wrong with them. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
they weren't on CPAP machine. They
Oh,
were just
right.
basically taking oxygen.
Yep.
We walk in, of course, not knowing what to expect. And
Right.
these are little tiny little creatures who,
Yeah.
we walk up and see Madison, and she's got this oxygen in her nose, and
Yeah.
like literally, and you can see all the machines around her, and it's scary. But all
That
the nurses,
is.
they were smiling, just saying, "Look, these kids are fine." I mean,
Oh my
she was the only one that was really taking oxygen. Ben and Sebastian were fine, and and everything was. They literally could not have been healthier, and they were 31 weeks. Everything, their lungs were developed. They had hair. Like Ellen, it was.
Yeah.
We'll say this 20 years later. Your ability to take ice cream and make it like brain food is still remarkable to this day. I wish I could do that and not end up with love handles. You made those kids.
Yeah.
You gave them their foundation, and from that day forward, they were always healthy.
Very sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did they have a feeding tube, or was I looking?
They
at
did,
it?
because that when they're little, and we didn't know this, it was the suck, swallow, breathe thing had to happen. So the reason we were in the hospital for about 5 weeks was because they just had to grow to develop that muscle. I think doesn't happen until 36 weeks. So we just had to wait.
Oh,
Right.
crazy. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Like the luckiest,
And-
thank
and
God.
What
that
was able to happen
everything-
then too, like Terry said, was he was able to learn how to care for them, how to handle these tiny little newborns that were going to go home with him. So he got opportunities to bathe and feed and diaper, and he felt way more comfortable, he said, going home, because I know at some point I believe you went back to work or had to fly places or did something, but I don't think you were there the entire 5 weeks. I think he kind of held down.
I had to leave for 1 week to go back to, the good thing was, this is why it was such serendipity to find you, to be in Orange County. The hospital was directly across the street from our West Coast offices. I literally could look out the window of the office I was temporarily working in and literally see the hospital that the babies were in. So it was perfect. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
That's
my
like a dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was great.
Oh my gosh. Who is that?
We all look. Oh,
That was Maddie. Yeah.
Maddie.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
great.
It's pretty crazy.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Oh, is that Ben?
That was Ben. Yeah.
Oh
Wow,
yeah.
good job, Elle.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, they just look, so cute. Oh my gosh.
They had a lot of hair.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did have a lot of hair. They were born ready to go. Yeah. It was good.
Wow. So what age did you begin to tell them this, just, hey, listen, this is how you kind of came to be? Because I'm sure at some point schools.
It was really young. I mean, it probably when they were hearing stories, I think we told them we wanted to make it really clear from the youngest age possible. I think at one point I said, I'm going to write a book, and never did. I was trying to do something that would give them some illustration so they could process, because little kids have no idea. But definitely when they were 3, 4, and they were starting to go into preschool, we wanted them to have a sense of it. And so that if they ever heard things, mostly the I don't have a mommy story, if nothing else, I have 2 daddies.
Yeah.
That stuck. But nothing else really stuck for a long time. And then it stuck with them at different ages. So, there was a point in which Maddie was in middle school and would say, I can't explain it. Could you tell? I mean, they'd ask me to come to their kindergarten, I think, at some point and read a story, tell the story, because they couldn't answer it. But I don't know. They just never really cared. I mean, as much as we tried, they just didn't really latch onto it. It was just what they were and who they were.
Right.
Yeah, I love the fact.
Testament to them, to you guys. Dads,
I was just going to say, Maddie was saying that, like, she couldn't remember what grade it was, but that, like, you came in and explained to her class, like, hey, this is, and it was so helpful. And like, I love that the school even allowed that and was like, explain, like, I love that you did that.
Yeah.
And Terry said your community in Atlanta, when you guys were back there, was just so welcoming and so embracing of just your story. Just you had triplets, they were just welcoming.
It was funny. I'm not very religious, but a cultural Jew. Terry was not Jewish, not really religious of anything. And so we decided we'd raise the kids Jewish. And we were living in Atlanta. My aunt and uncle were a big, part of the Jewish community. And so they went to a Jewish preschool and initially a Jewish day school. And the community was really, really open and welcoming. But I think it was mostly because the mothers loved having a gay friend in Terry. They loved, after all their gossip sessions, they thought his Southern accent, and even though they were all in Atlanta, they just loved the fact that they had their non-Jew gay friend. That was just, and so he was always at the coffee clatches, and it really helped. And, at the end of the day, the kids ended up with lots of friends right from the get-go, and that just was their community. And so they never really had anybody even ask questions at a certain point, because it just was what it was.
Yeah. Do you remember how the California mom thing came up? Do you remember? Because I remember I was called that for a while.
When we were, the kids would always call you on their birthday. Either, we would call you on your birthday. And so it was, I think at some point, they would say, who's Ellen? They would know, but not know. And we'd show a picture. And so we had to come up with a way to make them understand, because it was just, you can't say surrogate. They couldn't even say the word. Yeah. So I think we just said your California mom, and it just sort of became the thing. It was they were so young, and it just stuck. And so it probably stuck till, I would imagine if they were telling a story today, they might say a surrogate, but even Maddie sometimes says, well, my California mom.
Yeah. And she told me now, when she tells the story, she's gotten it where that correct me if I'm wrong, Kenny, did she say that I'm her surrogate birth mother?
Yeah.
That's what she says. And I'm like,
they just don't have the vocabulary. I mean, look, it's what it is. And who cares? I mean, I don't, you don't care. I don't care. Yeah.
I don't care. No. I just happy that that you all let me have such access to them. Number one, where they were in the hospital. And number two, we've kept up the relationship, because it is such a unique one. It really is. I mean, even if it's just once a year we talk or we send a text real quick, like, I really feel like we're connected to you guys and you're connected to us. And I really appreciate it. Yeah.
I remember the first time that the kids actually saw you at a point where they could actually recognize and know what they were doing was when we all met up at Disney, and you had organized you had organized a whole VIP day in Disneyland, and the kids, that was the moment where they really connected to you and understood who you were and what it was all about, because they were old enough at that point to do it.
Yeah. I remember that day. Wow.
And
that's crazy.
You went back when they lived, I think, Georgia, right?
I think with their second birthday, Amanda and I came back.
You did.
Got it like at a petting zoo or something. And I don't really think they had the concept of who the heck I was. But
I mean, at that point, they didn't even know who their family was. I mean, it was,
But it was just nice to see them in the, from the teeny little babies to actually running around and playing on things and having personalities. It was very cool. And then I think the next time I really saw them in person was at around 12 years or 11 or 12, when they came out when you were out here doing, and then
The podcast. Oh no, you saw somebody at a basketball game.
Ben at a basketball
Ben,
game.
that's right. You were so kind. You went out to LA when he was flying down from Seattle for a basketball game. He was so excited.
Yes. Oh,
And now he's at USC. Now he's don't you even teach at USC?
I do teach at USC. That's what I told him. I said, when you get back out here, I need to kind of know what your schedule is because I am going to be down there in January, February, and March a lot. So I was like, we can just get together for and I told him we have a pool. He can bring his friends. Like he can hang out in the afternoon. I don't care. Like,
yeah,
fun. But I don't know if he has a way of getting here. We'll have to talk about that.
Yeah. He would love it. He would absolutely love it. Yeah.
They're they're just it's amazing. Okay, that one, I think. Am I done? Or do I have one more page? I'm sorry. Let me figure it out. Oh, no, we did that one. Oh, there's.
Want to talk about the tarmac, Mom?
What's it? Yeah. That, like, the fact that, and you gave me full access to them in the hospital, which never in my wildest dreams did I think I would ever get. Because I had surrogate friends who were like, well, when the baby's born, that's it. You go home and they do their thing and you talk to them. But since they were in the NICU and the step down for such a long time, like, you let me bring my kids in. Like, they needed that journey closed too. And I'm such an advocate for that any surrogate who goes out there today and wants to do this, you have to have it written in your contract that you get at least maybe one uninterrupted hour so you can have whatever children you have or your husband, whoever helped you through this journey, say goodbye. Just close it. You guys gave me so much time. It was just insane. I had bracelets on till the time you guys went home. Then when you asked me, did I want to come down to the tarmac when you got on your plane, like, I lost it there. I was like, are you kidding me? They're going to let me do that? And that was just such a closure to me that I was at peace for the rest until this day. And I will still be at peace knowing that I did what I needed to do. I got them to where they needed to be. They needed a little extra help in the hospital, not a lot. And then I saw them fly off to their home. Like, it couldn't have gone for me any better as a journey. It really could have.
I can't imagine it going any other way. I mean, I don't know who Kennedy, I don't know the full story, but I know over the years I've heard bits and pieces. Your last one wasn't a great experience. And I just can't imagine if somebody's going to go through this process, and certainly as an intended parent, and you don't appreciate that the person that you're going to work with is more than a uterus. They're a human being who's actually giving their heart before their uterus. And if not their heart, their brain, to wanting to actually do something with a concerted effort and all the other things that they're going to do in their life to be pregnant on your behalf and then walk away with all the scars, quite literally, all the scars and the abuse of what a pregnancy does to a woman's body and to her family and to everybody else, and not involve them and include them and manage the process together, then you're not in the right business. You shouldn't do it because you're an asshole. I mean, you just are. And I think that look, I'm sure that some people prefer to be very transactional for a number of reasons. And some people, maybe because they're doing it from other parts of the world, don't have much of a choice. And culturally, it's a really hard thing to do because of family situations, sometimes laws. I get it. But you know what? For all the means that you have, you should always be kind. And I can't imagine it any other way for us.
Yeah. No, and you were always kind, always respectful, always. Yeah. Sometimes, like you said, Terry, I just love him to death. And sometimes it's like, okay, Terry, just let me be for just 5 seconds. Like, just because the hormones were raging and there was like times 3 and I'm like, and he just wanted to be involved. And I was like, okay, I'll step back, step back. You got to understand what this means to them. It was so new to all of us. So, okay. Had we not had multiple, say it was just one egg that took and we got one baby, would you have done it again? Number one, surrogacy again. Would you have used the same agency? That's the second part. And then the same surrogate.
And would you be the donor again?
The master plan was that we were going to do it once and that I was going to donate and we would do it again and he was going to donate. And so that was the master plan. Funny enough, just because I got a bill, we have embryos in storage still. I don't know why. I had forgotten. And yeah.
So you could have more kids.
There are potentially little Ben, Maddie, and Sebastian. Let me assure you, Kennedy, what is never going to happen is having more children. Why I still have the embryos, I do not know. And it is actually a little concerning to But no, and so the plan was that we were going to do that, and then we would be able to have other kids, or if Terry couldn't, or we weren't lucky, or whatever it was. I mean, look, again, this is 20 years. Who the hell knows what we were really thinking then? I can tell you that 3 was perfect for us, and I can't imagine it any other way.
Nice, that's awesome. Wow. And were you happy with the agency? Were you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remembered again, it was so transactional, and from their standpoint, they just wanted to ensure success. Their goal was to make sure they had happy clients, and they were very, very small at the time. I understand now they're much larger, and, they've worked with thousands of people, and I'm sure that they are, twice the price and all the other things that go with it, but they've earned their reputation. And, frankly, I think to any agency out there that somebody chooses to work with, the things that you got to make sure of are that these people are, they've got a proven track record and that they're doing all the right things. I think the laws have become more favorable, generally speaking, in most states. Mm-hmm. And insurance companies, we were also very lucky, Ellen, because, we were able to get you covered back then. And, so, there's a lot of things that just worked in our favor. And nowadays, the rule, I don't know what the rules are and how it all works, but I do know that, a good agency that does this really well, especially if you need to have a special agency, like in our case, one that specializes in gay surrogacy, was absolutely imperative for us to make sure that all the right boxes were checked.
Yeah. Kenny, do you have questions from your followers? Any at all?
Yeah, you kind of asked them.
I did, even when they came back with any questions?
Yeah.
No? Oh, we are? Okay, awesome. Well, gosh, do you think we covered it all, Jason? Was there something we missed?
Hi, Ellen, we could have this conversation for 3 years.
Oh my God, seriously.
There's so much.
Yeah, I told you that we would give it allotted an hour and like about an hour and 90 minutes, and you're like, you don't want to hear me, listen to me talking for 90 minutes. And look at that, it's been an hour and 10. So
no.
Enlightening. See, every time I talk to one of your family members about this, it's like I learned something new.
It's a new piece.
Yeah. And when you said your aunt and your mom would love to do this, do you mean a podcast?
No, I think they were. No, they were. I don't know if they would, but it was more just that they were talking to Maddie and her boyfriend. I think they were all sitting around gossiping in Colorado and prompting Maddie to ask me something.
Yeah. Okay, makes sense. I'm like, wait a minute, we're gonna get the whole clan.
I think you've worked. I think I'm the last one, right? You've worked the whole family at this point.
We've got the whole all 5 of you. Yep.
Yeah. And ended on their birthday.
Oh my gosh.
And ended on their birthday. I can't believe it's 20 years. I mean,
I can't either.
Happy
birthday, Ben, Maddie, and Sebastian.
Yeah,
happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Oh my gosh.
Just
20 years.
Well, Jason,
you're a grandma now multiple times over. You keep on all of the kids are having kids, so this is great.
We have 2 and 2 more within the next 6 weeks. We're getting 2 more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I know. Kind of fun.
Yaya, right? You're Yaya?
Yeah, I'm Yaya. Yeah.
What's Mike?
Grandpa.
Yeah.
I couldn't do the grandma thing. I just didn't want grandma. I'm like, no, there's got to be something else. And so I found Yaya.
I love it. My parents, I remember very vividly them sitting in the house after the kids came home, and my mother and father looked at each other and said, what are we going to call each other? Because it was not going to ever be grandma and grandpa. And they both sat there and they decided. And my mother said, well, I want to be Gigi. And Grandma Gail, Gigi. And then my father thought for a minute and he said, I want to be Duke. And that's just what it was.
I love that.
Duke?
That's it.
That's how Duke came to play?
Duke and Gigi.
I thought Duke was there for years. I had no idea that was what he wanted to be called.
That's it. Okay. We have no idea. That's on video, but that was Duke.
Oh my God. That's great. Honestly, one day you just need to make the documentary. Because you could.
There's so many hundreds and hundreds of hours of video. I don't even know where to start. It's insane.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do want to jump back because I forgot to ask. I remember when we found out it was triplets, it was like, how were you going to tell your family? How were you going to do it? So how did you do it, if you remember, and possibly the reactions? Were they afraid for you in the beginning, or were they
there's only one reaction that I remember. I do not remember. I remember there was actually 2. I remember what I told all of my bosses and friends at work, because that was an interesting one. But the family. So the only one that I remember is my father.
Okay.
And he paused for a second. He said, yeah, it figures you would leverage $1. So, the fact that I'd spent money and got 3 for 1 was like, he's like, yeah, of course you would.
That's amazing. Now that you've tempted me, what did you tell your work?
at work. So the interesting thing was back then, I never told anybody that I was gay. And so it just, at work, it was a little bit tenuous, but we decided, Terry and I decided, look, there's no living in the closet at this point, like we're going to have kids. So we're not going to show them that we, don't tell the truth. Like we're going to be honest with ourselves. So anyway, I went around to my boss, to everybody at some point or another, and closed the door and said, I've got something to tell you. And by the way, I wasn't going to do it for a little while longer, but when the kids we knew they were going to be premature. We thought they were coming in October, but they ultimately came in August. And so I had to go in really quickly, like all of a sudden. And I sat down and I said to them, each one of them, I've got two things I need to tell you so you have context. First, I'm gay. I have a partner. And second, we're having triplets next week. And to a person, every single one of them just stared at me like, what, you're having triplets? Never spoke of being gay. Not one of them. They were like, triplets? Yeah. What do you mean you're having triplets? And that was the story. And then it was pretty remarkable, but it was, that was the start.
That's amazing.
That's so funny.
That's hilarious.
Oh my gosh.
Because we didn't know if it was triplets or not. I think when we found out that the numbers were high, and I think Terry told me you were going to get like little baby socks and put them in a box, thinking that there might be at least multiple. You knew there were multiples. We didn't know how many. And they were going to open up like maybe these little baby socks and pull them out and go, what? Is there one? Is there two? Is there what? That's one of the stories I heard. I don't know if that went down that way. But until we had the actual ultrasound, did we know it was 3. But I think you told them beforehand that, we're pregnant, but don't know how many, type of thing.
Yeah, it was no, I don't remember any of that. I just remembered, the process obviously happened fast, and when we found out, it was just, all hands on deck.
All hands on deck. Wow. Yeah. Gosh, Jason. Yeah, go ahead, Ken.
No, just crazy. I don't have any questions. I'm just fascinated. I could listen to Jason talk for hours.
I think I know the story and I learned so much more. It's like insane. It's insane. But thank you so much, because I know you're busy for your time. I do appreciate it. I really do, Jason.
Seriously.
It's a lot.
It is my pleasure. Thank you both. I can't imagine doing it any other way.
Oh God.
You're seeing a picture of Kennedy making a really crazy face. That's hilarious. That is hilarious.
I have so many. No, anyway, I can't imagine doing this any other way to celebrate their 20th birthday. It's a gift for me that you guys would both hang out and talk. Thank you a million times. I love seeing you. And listen, I'm going to be out there really quickly to drop Ben off. So I think it's too quick on this trip, but we'll be back. And when we're back, it's too easy to see you. We'll make sure that it happens.
Awesome. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
I know.
Take care. Tell everybody we said hi.
You both. All right. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
I love him.
Yeah, I know.
I love him.
Sweet.
I love it. I love that he documented everything.
I didn't know that. I had no idea I was being videotaped when we had the triplets. No idea.
Your face. Right. I wish everybody could see that. Your face when he was like 1, 2, 3. You were just like, there was no emotion on your face. You were just like, no. You were like in denial.
Yeah, I know. And I firmly believe when he said, I said Jesus Christ several times, because I think I did. I'm laying on a table and he's doing a weenie wand with. I'm saying there's 3. Look, they're right there. They're right there. Zoom in. Get them. It's such a out of body experience moment. You're like, I know this is not happening. Now what do we do?
Oh my God.
It was insane. But yeah, he put a little bit of a different perspective on it. I didn't know a lot of what, how they were feeling, because, you just go through the process.
Totally. Well, yeah, you guys aren't going to like talk about the process during the process. It's more like, we have triplets now. Let's get them healthy and here. Like
exactly. And then when they were here, they were so busy raising them. It was just
totally.
Like, okay, I'm in the background. I got it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah.
But I would get regular pictures from them of the kids.
Yeah, I know. I remember seeing them a lot. You still have them in your house.
Have them. Because it's important to me. Yeah, I still have them. I do still have them.
I know. Yep. It's so sweet.
Oh my goodness gracious. That was lovely. All right.
Well, happy birthday.
Yes.
Maddie, Ben, Sebastian, 20 years. Super
awesome,
exciting.
Guys. Happy birthday to all 3 of you. Know that you are thought of often and loved just beyond words. The fact that we got to go through that journey together just makes my heart smile.
Aww.
So yeah.
So yeah, if any of you would like to share your story, if you guys have been a part of surrogacy, or if you guys have any questions, please feel free to message me on Instagram. But this has been Stop.Sit.Surrogate with Ellen and Kennedy.
Thanks, everyone. And thank you again, Jason. Really appreciate your time. Everybody have a good week.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to give us a like and subscribe. Also, check out the link to our YouTube channel in the description. And be sure to also check out our children's book, My Mom Has Superpowers, sold on Amazon and Etsy.